There is nothing like a fresh cup of coffee and then talking superhero movies. Welcome to Durbania, I'm Durbin, and this is my ranking of the MCU Phase 1, which is Iron Man through the first Avengers movie. So I'm going to take those 6 movies and I'm going to rank them least favorite to favorite. It's hard to say least favorite there though, because honestly, I love these MCU movies. Even the weak ones, I like them, and there's a place in my heart for them. I just have so much fun with them. There's a lot of movies in this whole MCU franchise now, so that's why I'm dividing this up, and right now, this is my ranking for Phase 1. What is your ranking for Phase 1, the first 6 MCU movies? Go ahead and let me know in the comments, and if your list is different than mine, awesome. I hope it is, because I love having conversations about these things. I want to see your list. I want to see where you place things. I want to know why you place them there, and I can't wait. So here we go, getting into my ranking right now. Number 6, Iron Man 2. I actually did enjoy Iron Man 2, but I think the reason it falls at my number 6 out of all the ones in Phase 1 is just because when you watch Iron Man 2, it really does repeat the same kinds of beats as Iron Man 1. I mean, in both movies, he's an alcoholic working to overcome his alcoholism, battling his inner demons. Granted, Iron Man 2, it's a bit of a catalyst. He's dying because of palladium to the chest, so he's kind of self-medicating. But he's kind of self-medicating in the first movie, too. So really what we see is he's got to overcome alcoholism. He's got to beat his demons. So once again, we're seeing that internal struggle. Then yet again, he overcomes that eternal struggle as he begins to build the suit and he finds that greater purpose. And then the last beat that it follows, the end of the movie, is him fighting a dude in a big giant gray ripoff of his suit. So basically, it follows a lot of the same points. However, even though it follows a lot of the same plot points, which I think technically makes it weaker than a lot of the other ones in the MCU, I still really like it. And I still really like it and have a lot of fun with it because of the characters. Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man. I mean, I can just see myself being one of those crazy old guys that when they reboot the MCU and somebody else is playing Iron Man, I'll be like, no, sonny, Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man. Whenever he's on screen, he just shines. And in my mind, while I was watching the movie, I was watching it on the big screen for the first time, and I was like, hey, they're just rehashing the first one a little bit. You know what? I didn't care. I just loved Robert Downey Jr. in that role. And there's something about these MCU movies where there's a greater degree where I can just let go more and let go of that criticism more. So yes, I'm recognizing it's repeating a lot of the beats of Iron Man 1. I'm recognizing that, and yet I'm having fun with the character. I'm having fun with Samuel L. Jackson. I'm having fun with Robert Downey Jr. It's really cool meeting Black Widow in this movie. Happy is hilarious in this movie. There's a lot of great moments that, in spite of the fact it's repeating a lot of the same beats from the first one, I still think it's a great movie, worth watching and worth having in the MCU collection. Number 5, The Incredible Hulk. I actually really did like this one. Of course, I think part of the reason I really liked The Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton is because I had just saw the other one with Eric Bana. And I thought that was awful. And I was just dating my wife at the time, and we were looking for something to do, and I think otherwise I wouldn't have gone to see this movie. That's how low my expectations were. And again, expectations, I guess, can set everything, right? Because my expectations were so low for this because of that Eric Bana version that when I went and watched this, and it's not because of Eric Bana, he did a good job. I just didn't like the movie. So then I go watch this one, and suddenly I'm blown away. Is it perfect? No. That's why it's at number 5 and not any further down. It's definitely not perfect. It's definitely not the best. But I enjoyed Edward Norton's take on Bruce Banner. I enjoyed his time in the sun as the Incredible Hulk. Obviously, I like Mark Ruffalo way better, but I thought Edward Norton was fantastic for this role. I liked its setup, I liked its introduction, I liked that it wasn't really a reboot, even though it was. By that I mean, it wasn't like all origin story, but it gave us enough. It gave us exactly what we needed to learn where he came from, what he's struggling with, and it dropped us right there at that right point in his life. So, I mean, I really enjoyed The Incredible Hulk. I enjoyed the way they told the story. As corny as some of it is, I enjoyed his last fight with Abomination. Like, I just had a lot of fun with that stuff. Hulk smash! It's a great scene, man. I don't know. I didn't hate this movie. I like it, so I definitely think worth adding to your collection as well. Number 4, Captain America, the First Avenger. I think as far as the Captain America trilogy goes, this is my least favorite in the trilogy. Now, saying that can sound like I'm being super negative and that I don't like this movie. So I'm going to tell you right now, that's wrong. Just because it's my least favorite in the trilogy doesn't mean it's one of my least favorite movies. I'm just telling you that's how good the trilogy is, and that's how much better these movies have gotten. When I first saw this, I thought this movie was really, really great. Again, I think it's expectations. I think I was kind of expecting some kind of Braveheart thing. By Braveheart thing, I don't mean the gore and all that stuff, but I mean a solid, more World War II movie where you spend a lot of time with him in the trenches with his guys and you get all the bonding. To be sure, there is a little bit of that, but you know, when they go to war and they're taking out all of the Red Skull's facilities, it's done in this giant montage. Again, I'm not trying to say that's bad. It's not that it was bad. It's just in my mind, I was like, wow, that feels like a missed opportunity. I would really have loved to see something Braveheart-like where you're watching the leadership skills of Captain America.
But they'll never take our freedom!
So point being is, yes, when I'm talking bad about this movie, I'm really just purely nitpicking, but I think Winter Soldier is my favorite in this Captain America trilogy, followed very closely by Civil War. Maybe they're tied. Civil War I just thought was also pretty brilliant. But this is a great movie. It was a great introduction to Captain America, and it was one of the first movies, like, I had never really seen Captain America. I never really read his comics or anything like that. I hadn't really seen too much stuff with Captain America, so this was the first, like, real Captain America thing I saw, and I really enjoyed it. Number 3, The Avengers. Now, this is where I could see things getting dicey in the comments because I have placed The Avengers at number 3, which means, if you're doing your math and following along, you know which two movies are left, and it's a 50-50 shot where either of those movies is actually going to fall in my top 2. So I can see why things might get a little dicey in here. But however, I do love The Avengers. The reason it's at number 3, not at number 2 or number 1 is because, well, it's not like it's super deep. In other words, its story is a little shallow and a little basic. It's just Loki comes to Earth, he's a really big threat, heroes now have to come together. And it just feels like the story is just there to serve the purpose of bringing the heroes together. That sounds really dumb as I just said it out loud because, no duh, that's what the Avengers is, right? It's these heroes coming together. So just know that's a minor nitpick. I'm just saying when I look at the overall story, it feels a little shallow to me. But putting that aside, this is probably one of the funnest movies. Because number 1, it's groundbreaking. It's groundbreaking because it showed if you do a shared universe right, it works. This was the first movie to do it, where we spent time with each character in this movie in their own individual movies, and now we bring them together and we see that, oh my gosh, the pieces really do fit. They really are in a shared universe. And then because we got their individual stories, we get to know their personalities, we get to know their mode of operation, and now we get to see the friction of them all being together. For me, that was really the best part. Again, Robert Downey Jr., probably my favorite part of this movie. I thought he had the best one-liners in the Avengers. I love his character as Iron Man, and I think he rocked it in this movie. But seriously, each of them rocked it in this movie, and that's the thing I like about Joss Whedon. You don't lose any of these characters in their development just because it's a mashup of all of them. I like the way he writes these movies, and you get all the stories, and they don't get lost. You get the characters, you get their growth, and you get it all together. So, a lot of stuff in here that I really enjoyed. Love this movie. In at number 3. Number 2, Thor. This is where I thought it was going to get dicey on my list. That I would take the original Thor and rank it higher on my list than the first Avengers movie. But that's what I've done. And why? Because it's just a matter of personal preference. I think Kenneth Branagh is a great director. This is a dude who's done a lot of Shakespeare. And a movie like this can use a good Shakespearean quality. And he brought that. He brought a great epic touch to this movie. He brought a great Shakespearean quality, like the drama between Anthony Hopkins and Chris Hemsworth, between Odin and Thor. Like, I loved that. I loved the lines between them when Odin casts Thor out of heaven, out of Asgard, and he falls to Earth without his powers. And I'm a huge King Arthur fan. I love the sword and the stone. The one who's worthy is able to pull the sword from the stone. And that's what this is. It's this hammer entrenched in stone. Nobody can pull it because nobody's worthy. But here's the deal. Here's the twist. Thor is no longer worthy. Pride caused him to have a fall. Because of his pride, he was unworthy. And now having to be immortal and live amongst mortals, he had to learn what worthy even means, what kind of heart was able to pull the sword from the stone, so to speak. And it was a humble heart. And when he reached that point of humility where he sacrificed himself for the good of others and was in seeking his own glory, he was worthy. And not only could he pull the hammer from the stone, the hammer just freaking flew like a missile to him. And so like those type of story things I love. And plus, I love sci-fi fantasy. I love epic backstory like that, and I loved it. I just love the way they constructed this story. I love the way Kenneth Branagh directed the story. I thought Chris Hemsworth is the perfect Thor. I mean, every part of this movie I loved. And for a while, even after I watched the first Avengers movie before Phase 2 started, this was seriously my favorite. I don't know. I'm sorry. Like, I know a lot of people are not the biggest Thor fans, even though we're all looking forward to Thor 3. I just really, really liked this movie. I really did. It stands out to me as one of my favorites, and it's good. Coming in at number 1, Iron Man. When I first saw this movie, I knew nothing. And by I knew nothing, I meant I had been familiar with DC, read some DC comics, loved the DC movies, but did not have a strong familiarity with Marvel, with the Avengers, with S.H.I.E.L.D. I didn't have that at that time. And so when this movie came out back in 2008, I was dating the woman who is now my wife, and we were looking for something fun to do, so we went and saw Iron Man because I thought superhero movies are epic. Let's go see a superhero movie. I had no idea what I was in for, but I was blown away by how truly awesome this movie was. Robert Downey Jr. is this character and is forever this character, and it's done. It's tainted. I can never see anybody else play Iron Man. I can never see anybody else portray Tony Stark.
I am Iron Man.
And it's hard to really talk about and describe. It's the humor, it's the depth, it's the places he goes with this character. It's that feeling you get when you watch him with this character and you're with him. You're having a blast and you're rooting for him. I love the montage where he's in his basement in his lab and he's building this suit, and then, you know, he's testing his thrusters and he blasts himself up and he bashes into the ceiling. Hysterical, man. Hysterical. This movie just had it right. All of its beats, the way it was written. Robert Downey Jr. was just so great. Jeff Bridges as the villain. Oh, Obadiah Stane. Oh, man, all of that was just so good. This movie it came out great. No wonder it launched the MCU. It was just so flippin' good. And so because of that, it is my number 1. Like, when I go back to the Phase 1 and I think about Phase 1, the movie that I think about most is this one. Just had an absolute blast with it. So there it is. That is my ranking of the MCU Phase 1. What's yours? Let me know in the comments, and while you're there, hit the subscribe button to become a Durbanian. Next to the subscribe button is that bell. Click the bell so you're notified the moment I drop new videos. Check out my other ranking videos, theological analyses, movie reviews, trailer reactions, and other great things I have on this channel. I'm Durbin. Thank you for checking out Durbania.